welcome to Polymer Clay TV. Today we are going to be making some really cool beads, and they're so much fun to use, but the base of them is actually this beautiful opal Primo Accents color, and it has iridescent pieces in there which helps to make the design look so cool. I'll have pictures on the website at createalong.com so you can see it close up in case you can't see it as good in the video. But it's really a cool technique. I started making these beads and I was like, whoa, it was a nice happy accident. So what I used the Color Me Magic transfer papers, and they're pre-printed with the designs on them. We have tons of designs, but this happens to be the Paisley Garden one, and it comes with squares, circles, an overall, and a little border. And this one's the Floral Fantasy. They're 8.5 by 11, so it's a full sheet, but you get a lot of designs and it goes a long way. So today I'm going to be working with those two designs, and they transfer with water. They're simple to do, and there's lots of videos on our channel, so I'm not going to go through the whole transferring process. You can watch one of those to see how it gets transferred. But so obviously I'm going to be working with the opal clay, and this is the second thickest setting on my pasta machine I'm using today. For this, I figured out how much clay I needed for the bead, and it happened to be this exact amount of this cookie cutter. So what you want to do is you want to figure out how much clay you need. As we move forward, you'll see what we're going to use it for, so that you can make beads that are all the same size. And I happened to figure out that this particular cookie cutter was the perfect size for making this size bead. So it is what it is. You just have to figure that out on your own, so you know if you have a smaller size bead that it doesn't take quite as much, obviously. And I figured out I can use the smaller cutter and use like 4 of these and get this. So you just have to figure that out. I'm using the graduated circle cutters today. We have been out of them in the shop for quite a while, but I found them again, hallelujah, and they'll be back in the shop. If you really want these, drop me an email at thingscrafty@gmail.com, and I'll set aside a set for you, because they'll probably run out of them as soon as we can get them in. Unfortunately, they only let us order a certain amount. So anyways, here is one of the main tools we're going to be using today, and this is the hollow bead maker from Polyform, which are the makers of Sculpey and Primo. And it's like a painter's palette in a way. However, it has the different sizes of these different, I guess I don't even know what you would call them, little bowls or whatever. So that makes it nice. So if you're doing something smaller like this bead, you can kind of use that one. However, these were all the same size, and the dome is about the same, you know, so they worked out fine if I used the same design, you know, on the same dome. That way they'll match up, if you know what I'm saying. So like these two are the same, so they're on this biggest one, and so on and so forth. So to start out, I rolled a flat sheet of the clay, and let me show you here. I rolled out a flat sheet of the clay, and I transferred my image. I took my image that I had cut out, laid it on the clay, face down, burnished it on there until it almost looks like the clay is leached into it, and then you know it's ready to be transferred. And then you run it under some water, and the paper will come off and leave your design. Like I said, we're not going to do that today because I've done it so many times and I don't want to get everything all wet. So you can do that on your own, and you get the design, and all you do is use a cookie cutter to cut it out. That's what I did. I just used, actually, there was a cookie cutter in here that was the perfect size, and that's what I used. And so you just cut it out, and then you have it ready to go. So let me just cut that out. I think this was the right size. It might be a little big. Yeah, this one was a little bigger than I want. Because I want just the design. I don't want the clay on its own. So that's good right there. So I'm going to cut both these out. Okay, so once I have them cut out, I then place them on my hollow bead maker. Let me remove these first. So they may be a little sticky when you come off. You can really see the opal in there and how cool it is. but it shines through beautifully through the Color Me Magic transfer papers. So you might have to pry them off a little, you know, gently. Don't go crazy with them. So these are all baked already. I already did these, but I'll show you how I put it together. But so basically, you stick it over on top of the piece, and you give it a gentle pat down. And this is after you transfer it. You want to make sure it's completely dried before you do this. And so, since I'm doing it on the big one, and this is the same design, I'm going to do it on this same one as well, so they have the same exact, you know, bend. But so, I like to flatten my edges a little, go around and kind of flatten it. It just makes for a nicer looking bead. So just use your fingers to flatten the edges nicely. Now you might have a little scraggly pieces because this is like a mylar that's inside of the opal clay. Don't worry about that. You can either sand it or you can cut it off after it's been baked. So don't get all fussy with that. So you can bake right on the hollow bead maker tray. It's metal. It can go right in the oven. I stick it on another tray just because that's what I do. So once you bake it, you're good to move on to making the beads. So let's move this out of the way. And so here is that piece. I've already bent it up, but this is the piece that I cut out with the cookie cutter, which I know is the right size for these beads. So let's pick two of the same. Now you could totally mix it up. That's the thing. You don't have to use the same on each side. You could totally, you know, change it up and get a totally different look. It's totally up to you to do what looks good to you. And so when Kira designed these, she designed them so on most of the designs, one's going one direction, one's going in the other directions. For instance, if you wanted to make a pair of earrings, you have one swirl here that's going one direction and one swirl here that's going the other direction. So it's a mirror image of each other so that you have the perfect thing to make earrings. So if you wanted to make earrings, that's why she designed it that way. So you can have a mirror image, and a lot of designs don't work out that way. However, we planned that. It was meant to be. So anyways, I'm going to roll this into a ball. That's how I'm going to start. After it's been conditioned and I have my right size, I'm going to roll it into a ball. Now, I'm going to turn these over and I'm going to put my ball inside of the one end. And I'm going to kind of shape it in there. All with my fingers. I'm not using any tools or anything. And then I'm going to take the other side, and I want to line it up so that, you know, the design is going the same way on both sides. So you can kind of just eyeball it and see where it is. It's just my personal preference. So now I've created like a macaroon. You've probably seen a lot of macaroons. They're really popular right now. And so I want to gently push on this because I want this clay kind of to bond with this, because I'm taking already cooked clay, already baked clay, and I'm putting it with raw clay. But you have to bake these already, because otherwise you would end up messing them up. So I'm not going to use any liquid clay for this. I found I have no problem with it sticking together. If it does want to come apart, you just keep working it a little. And you can roll it on your work surface and give it a little push as you're doing it. You can use your finger to move around the clay until you get it just the way you want. And make sure there's no air pockets in between the already baked clay. Make sure there's no air pockets, period, but make sure there's no air pockets in between the already baked clay and the raw clay, because you'll have problems if you do that. If you have, you know, any air pockets. Okay, so that looks good. So I've created what is now like a macaroon look. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take a piece of my design, and this was the Paisley Garden one, I believe. And so I think I'm just going to cut a strip from off of this one right here, because I think that'll be cute. And you kind of want to line it up with your design, see how wide you need to make it. And so what I'm going to do is just cut a little strip. It needs to go all the way around the bead. It needs to be able to fit around, and this will work just fine. So I'm just going to cut a little strip here, which I think is the right size. Now, on the Magic transfer paper, sometimes there's these little extra spaces. Use those to practice. That way you can draw on the Magic transfer paper with some colored pencils. The Prismacolors work really good. The Derwent work really good. We haven't tried them all, but those are the ones I know work really well to draw on there. Just to get a hang, because, you know, the thing is, if you've never done it before, you know, there's a learning curve with anything there is. So, you know, it's good to practice. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start wrapping this around the middle of my bead. And I want to make sure, once again, there's nothing in between the clay, no air pockets in between the clay and the paper. And so I got to the end here. I'm going to cut off that extra I don't need. And so now at this point, I want to gently give it a little rubbing, make sure that it's making complete contact with the clay. Okay, it must make complete contact with the clay. It must not have any air pockets in there. You have to pay attention to this. So what I do is I give it a little burnishing, and I'll sit it aside for a few and let it just sit there. And you'll know, because it'll start to kind of look like the clay is leached into the paper, and that's a way to tell that it's ready to be washed off. Okay, so that's it. It's as simple as that. And so let me show you one that I've already done, or several that I've already done. And I just used a knitting needle that I had, and I poked my holes. This one's too big. I think it was this guy. Oh, this one's too big too. My knitting needle's inside the house. Okay, so here you go. I found a knitting needle. So when you're poking your hole, you want to start and you want to twist. And you're doing this before it's been baked. And you twist it. And when you feel it come out the other side, you'll feel it poke your finger, pull it back out, and then come back in the other side and twist back through. And this will ensure that your holes don't get distorted and you know, they work out well. So really, that is all there is to it. So let's do this small one here so you can see that one as well. I did one right here. Let's add a little paper to it, a little transfer to it. This one, I don't even know which design this was. I think it was the Paisley one. So let's do again. You know, the thing is, you've got all these designs that go really nice with each other. Again, we want to line it up here. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact. It's just you want to make sure that you have enough that it covers the whole area. And if you have too much, you can just cut it off. And so, once again, just like we did before, we're going to lay it right on to the clay. And then wrap it around. I actually cut this one a little too thick. I can cut it off, trim it up if I need to. But I think it'll be okay. I just cut off the extra. And there you have it. So I would let this sit on here. I would give it a nice little rub, you know, and until you see it look like it's ready to be transferred, which will kind of be like a leach look. You know, Kira described it, because I didn't know how, I personally didn't realize how to describe it. I'm like, how do you really know when it's ready to go? I just know because I've worked with it for a long time now, and you know, I know when it's ready to go. And I have a warm climate here, so it can depend on your climate. It can depend on, you know, other factors, how soft or hard the clay is. So just make sure that it's touching the clay in every spot so that it transfers correctly. I'm gonna go ahead and actually do this one, even though I said I wasn't gonna do a transfer. I'm not set up to do it, but what the hey, I'll just use my water bottle. You know, I don't know how well you can see this on camera. It might be tough for you to see, but let's see. It starts to get a little darker. Maybe that's the right word for it. It'll start to get a little darker, and you'll see that it's basically leaching into the clay at this point. Now see, when I move this around and it buckles, then it's not making contact completely with the clay, and it's not going to transfer good. So you have to be very careful with that. We've had a couple people contact, it doesn't work, oh my gosh. it doesn't work. And I'm like, yes, it does. I do it every day, so don't worry about it. Just keep at it. Because really, it's you just have to get the feel for it and know when the clay is ready to be transferred. That's all it is. It works beautifully. I assure you of that. Kira and I wouldn't put our name on anything that we know did not work at all. And we've been selling this for many, many years now. This is not something we just, started. We started selling it with the designs on it, but we've been using this paper for years, and we know it works. So I think this looks okay. I'm just going to use the top of this, and we're just going to experiment here, make sure. I would normally run this under a faucet, but since I can't show you that here on camera, you can get the gist this way. And you see it just, the paper starts to come off, and you can use your finger. Now, I wouldn't do it I wouldn't use my finger until you see most of the papers off, but I'll tell you what, I can apply a lot of pressure. It doesn't come off that easy. If it's coming off easy, it's because you did not make sure that it had perfect adhesion to the clay. That's all I can tell you. If you get it to adhere properly, you can touch the heck out of this. You really can. You can. I do. You can see I'm not even rubbing gently, and it's not affecting it. And I didn't do much to it other, than add my water bottle water to it. So that's that. Let me dry it off a little so you can see. It really is simple to transfer. I mean, it's not a lot of work to do, and you'll see, you'll get the hang of it before you know it. So then you want to just put your hole, which we were talking about, and I'm going to start right about here and twist. And when I feel it's almost to the other end, I'm going to stick my finger there until it pokes me. And now it just poked me, so I'm going to pull it back out, and I'm going to come back around where it poked me and do the same thing, so that I go back through that same, I went through the wrong place. There we go. If you go through the wrong place, just kind of smooth it over. And there you have it. That's how simple it is to make this beautiful bead that I'm going to turn into a really cool necklace. I may add some resin. I did play around with some liquid clay on top of the design too, because I wanted to see how it would look. And see, you can still see the sparkle, and you can see on the back where it's just the opal clay, but you can still see the sparkle. I don't know how well you'll see it on camera, but adding a very, very thin layer of liquid clay can change the whole look of the piece. So that's something to experiment with, and I'll be doing another video with that to kind of give you an idea about that. So I hope you have fun with this technique. It's not a lot of work, but it's so cool after it's done. So again, it's the Color Me Magic transfer papers, and you can find them in our shop at createalong.com. You can go to polymerclaytv.com. That'll get you to the same place. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you enjoy our videos, you'll be notified every week of new videos and new tutorials. We would love to have you come share some photos of your work at polymerclaytribe.com. That's a wonderful Facebook group we have. People all over the world. A lot of fun. Tons and tons of giveaways we have. In fact, as soon as we hit 2,500 members, which is probably going to happen today or tomorrow, we're giving away a big prize pack. So check it out, polymerclaytribe.com. It's a Facebook group, and you can join us, and we'd love to have you. Polymer Clay Adventure is still going on at polymerclayadventure.com. Chris Capone's really cool peacock egg class came out this past week, so that's really cool to check out. And there's a bunch of other classes in there that have already released, and a bunch more to come. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you make lots of fun beads, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me.